It's more than emotion. I feel I'm never gonna stop, 'cause I'm falling deep It's Mark, and it's time to start our live show. And so for today, our sponsor is Secrets of Clay Animation Revealed, and it's in the third edition, which you can check out in our store at stopmotionstore.com. So if you want to know the techniques that I use essentially to make clay puppets and do animation and set building and all that kind of stuff, it's all in one spot. So check it out. So let me turn on the webcam, which hopefully works. There we go. Okay, cool. Is that clear? Alright, yeah, that's good enough. So anyway, tonight we're going to start a new character, and just to kind of switch things up a little bit. So last time we worked on the mother character, and we got the different animation cycles that let me see if I can show everybody. So we created this smorgasbord of parts, and we've got the front view, which is made up of 4 different positions, as well as the side, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 positions, and they all, of course, lock into the bodies. And so for a walk, we can just pop one part off and move stuff around. And so this is for the mother character, which so her body's in different places from her head. So here's her some of her replacement faces and heads, and we've also got the little kid that we made. So just so if you guys have not seen this live show before, what we're working towards is to make an entire story using these kind of characters. And here is the I keep dropping my tools, but here's the king. And so, as you can see, the king is a different color than the mother, which has got a yellow face. There goes my third tool. So, the purpose behind this is because the orange characters are supposed to be, different, like a different race of character. Or not really race, but different color. Kind of imitating, real life, how people don't get along because they're different. And so that's the reason. Let me get my tools back that I dropped. One. Where'd it go? Ah. My tools go somewhere over here. That's not good. So I had a small miniature loop tool here, which I seem to have. Oh, here's my paintbrush. Yep, so this is real life. Real life means that people make mistakes for your entertainment purposes. So hopefully you guys are doing good. I see Janet's here, and Whiskey. Hopefully you guys are having a good week. My day's not. My show's not starting off nicely because I lost my tool. I dropped it into my big pile of clay over here, which is on a large styrofoam board. I don't know how I could have lost that. Why? Why does this happen? Alright, well, so much for that. Okay. That's going to bug me now. I dropped it right here. And, oh, there it is. Okay. It's the same color as my floor. It's a wooden floor. Wooden colored floor. So here we have the tools we're going to use. So these are really small. These are custom design tools. I can't really remember the site that I got these from, but it's a very super tiny loop tool and a super small ball tool. And I'll use these for the eyes. Now, the way I printed this out was that we designed this in the free program called Krita. Krita is, it's like, I don't know if it's considered open source. But it's similar to Photoshop. And so what we did, you know, probably months already, I guess, months back, is we designed all these characters. And so what I did is I took one of the mother characters' heads and figured that the mother would be somewhat smaller in size. To get the other one out of here. I figured the scale would be smaller in size than a male character, and also the king is fairly large. So I wanted him to be kind of the biggest character, more, you know, menacing and authoritative, I guess. So I made him a little bit big. Now the king's servant is also roughly the same size. So I know we're pretty close. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like, I don't want all the characters to be, you know, one really big and one really small. I don't want all to be kind of uniform. But it doesn't have to be perfect because, of course, you know, different people, different characters, they're all going to be different. So now I've also got some of this original orange clay that I created. I made a large batch of this. And this is, I believe, what I used for the king. I think I used Avalon in here and maybe Van Aken. I'm not really sure. This might even be straight Avalon that I just balled up. But anyhow, we're going to use this to create the first neutral face. So what we're aiming for here is, I'm not going to create a face with an expression. It's got to be neutral. And then I'll make a mold of this. And I've got some of this foam board that we're going to cut up and make a small mold. Hopefully I have enough of it. And so previously we've made molds, and you can see here it's very easy to make these. Just get in focus there. Basically you make a mold box and you lay your faces flat, pour in your silicone, turn it upside down, pop out the faces, and then you pour your clay into these. You want to melt it in a double boiler. I use Van Aken clay, and this is Avalon, which can melt. So that's what we do. We pour it in here, put it in the freezer so it becomes a little bit hard, and then it pops out without having to worry so much about undercuts. So this character, I don't have a name for him or anything, but I think he's one of like he's like a peasant. If there's a kingdom, right, you're gonna have peasants. So Star Wars Battlefront 2. Yeah. I've read about it. I read reddit.com all the time, so it was on the front page, and yeah, Star Wars Battlefront 2 that's a mess. So you have rain and a little bit of snow. That's pretty good. Snow's a good thing. At least when you're up north, you're supposed to have snow. If it becomes tropical, I think we'd have to worry, though. But, so Janet is mentioning Battlefront 2. Yeah, I mean, their next game is designed really and to get as much money as possible. It's just really obvious. That's all they want is your money. Nothing is free. Yeah, I love this. I love Star Wars, and I play the first Star Wars Battlefront game. You know, it's on and off. If I'm busy, I don't play games as much. But if I need to take a break and I want to play a game, I'll go on the first Star Wars Battlefront. But it's not a good game. The graphics are nice, but it is. EA is the company itself is not very good. They're good at making stuff look nice, but man, yeah, I could go into that as a, I'm not a super serious game player, but they need to fix their their games so that people are not supposed to dish out. I think somebody posted on there that if you figure out what they're doing with video games now is that you can make micro payments to buy like guns and unlock characters and all this kind of stuff. I mean, when I was a kid, you bought like a Nintendo cartridge, you stuck it in your console, and you played your game. You know, it was great. That's all there was to it. And you could, you know, kill all the bad people and power up and level up and whatever else was involved in those games. And now, and this is not even an exaggeration, they're saying that it cost about $20,000 to unlock all of the stuff in that game if you want to just pay for it. About $20,000 for a video game, you know. That's just great. I mean, to me it's crazy. I don't know. Maybe other people think that's good or something. But $20,000? It's either that or I think they said that takes about 40 hours to unlock a character or a power up. I don't really know what they are. I haven't seen it yet, but you can unlock all the stuff, and it takes about 40 hours to unlock one thing. So somebody did the math and realized that it would take something like 40,000 hours of gameplay to unlock all of the game. And I thought, yeah, like everybody else, to me that just doesn't seem right. Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. It is. It's totally crazy, Janet. And I love Star Wars, you know, and you know, I find the price ridiculous as it is. I think $60 for a video game is way too high. So usually when I buy a video game, I don't buy it when it comes out. I wait like 2 years before I pay for it, because the price sometimes comes down or you get it on sale. And that's the kind of way I buy stuff. But I think that this particular game is gonna hurt EA really badly. I mean, even you, like this is a stop motion channel, and even you were talking about it. You know, you're bringing it up because everybody knows it, and I can understand. You know, if you're like, I'm making this film right here. You know, I'm making a film. I'm making it how I want it, and if you don't like it, oh well. You know. There's nothing lost in that. So I can understand, like, they're probably thinking, well, we're making this the way we want it, and if you don't like it, it's too bad. But it's a game that if people don't like it, no one's gonna buy it. So they have to consider the players, because their whole model is, if they want to stay in business, you know, they have to appease the game players. And I mean, that's true in like Hollywood. They try to do that too, but it leads to a kind of disconnect, you know, like if you try to change something, like, you know, you try to make something new in Hollywood or whatever, people rebel. So you know, they have it kind of figured out, so they make remakes and this kind of stuff because the stakes are so high. They want to make money in Hollywood, but I don't know. Maybe I don't think that's really the right way to put it. They don't rebel. They don't pay for new films, because the newer films. What's that cat down there? Yeah. Alright, so anyways. I don't know what I'm really talking about. So I think I'm gonna. Is that too large? It's probably just a tad bit too big here. I'm just gonna shave some clay off. Here's my knife. Okay. So Whiskey says that oh yeah, 7,000 comments on EA. Yep. Oh, Whiskey says I would not play a game that you need to buy things as you go, but then I don't really play games anymore other than that old school AD&D night once a month. And yeah. I mean, it's fun, but I don't take it so seriously where I'd want to put that much money into it. And I think that's similar to applications on the phone too. Like a lot of phone games, I don't play any of them, but if I go and see something that seems interesting, for example, in the App Store, some of the games, the people are like, you can't win against other players because they just pay for some ungodly amount of stuff that gives them an advantage, and the person that pays the most money gets to defeat everybody else. It's just the way it is. So to me, it's just a silly thing. It's like people that make the games know that there's going to be players that just want have like a greediness to win the game, and a desire that's so strong that they'll pay for it. And you don't need skill. It's all money, and they kind of play into the psychology of the buyers like that. I mean, I suppose most companies do, like, car salesmen and all that. Some of them try a lot of psychological tricks, and that's really how it is. And but I don't know. Humans are kind of weird creatures. We do a lot of strange things. Okay, so I think the shape of this is probably pretty good. Now let me see. So if I put some eyeballs on them. Look at my camera here. Since I'm the center of the eye. It's roughly here, and so if you have a sketch like this and you want to sort of know where things have to fall on the character, you can always use dividers like this and measure from points, like from the bottom of the chin, to see how far up the eye is before it starts. This is what I'm doing here, and so I know it's got to be somewhere about here. Eyes will be about like this. It's going to have a chin. So I'm just going to carve away on this. I think that the clay might be too high. I might have made it a bit too fat of a face. So I'm going to start removing clay. So if I had started out where the clay was somewhat flat, I would be adding clay on top. And I'm going to start chopping away at this to kind of get what I'm after. Hey, what's going on, Alexis? Welcome to the show. All right. Oh yeah. Oh, Whiskey is saying that did I test it out on the glass? I have not. So I don't think the difference will be very large. I don't think that it's going to matter so much. If the faces are a little bit too big or something, that's okay. I could probably shave this down just a tad bit to make it so the face doesn't, appear much larger. So Alexis, this is just for a short film, and so I'm making all kinds of replacement faces. This one is a peasant character, and so what we're going to do is we're going to sculpt it, and we're going to sculpt the left and right view. I'm not actually sure if I need a left. Maybe just a right view. I don't know. I might have to look at my storyboarding and see about that, so I don't make more than I need. But anyway, we're going to make a mold and cast some of these so that we can have a neutral position to start from and have many different faces that will that we can choose from, for animation. And just for your, so like this, we have lots of different faces, and we can just plop these on and off of a. This is going to be a clay on glass animation, so there's a lot of layers of glass that we use, and the body parts will be on lower layers of glass. And that's why O Whiskey was mentioning that. He was saying, have I tested these out on the glass to see what they look like? Because objects that are closer will of course appear a little bit bigger to the camera, and it shouldn't be a huge amount of difference. It should be maybe maybe 5-6%, something like that, larger. So it might make the characters look different than what I've drawn in terms of how large the head is on the body and that kind of thing. But I'm not super worried about it, only because this particular project, I'm kind of doing it in a way that is like limited cell animation, which is kind of, so if you've ever watched something like an old Bugs Bunny cartoon, the Bugs Bunny cartoon would be fully drawn, every single frame, everything is fairly perfect, and there's no two frames that are the same. And that's great if you have a big budget and you have a lot of people, but this is just done in a way that is maybe how many replacement faces for the mother do I have? So I have like 2, 4, 6, maybe 8 faces or so to choose from, and there's no dialogue. There's going to be like a crowd shouting and stuff, but for the most part, there's no particular, like there's not going to be a voice actor that says lines, and these characters won't really have a conversation per se. It's going to be all just expressions and pantomime, which is, acting through body motions and stuff to tell the story. And I don't know if I'm going to have like a narrator, which I could have a narrator, but it's undecided at this point. So right now I'm just going to get, like I said, like the neutral positions. And and then after I have the neutral position, I can, of course, sculpt these from casts. And then, like on this one, his mouth will be lower, so I can swap out this, with a lower face on a piece of glass, and all of the eyes and everything will line up between the different casts that I create, and that would give the illusion of the motion and stuff. So what do I think about the new Star Wars trilogy and TV show? So Alexis is saying, so the animation will be made similar to the shot you are using to the show? So the animation will be made similar to the shot you are using. Well, yeah, it'll look like this. So it'll look sort of like a regular cartoon animation, but it'll have some, similar dimension to a clay puppet. So it's not fully 3D, and it's not, a fully 2D kind of thing. It's like a relief sort of animation, they would call it, maybe, which would be more accurate of a description, like a relief animation. So, Janet, I'm not the new trilogy. I don't know. I don't know anything about what they're gonna do with it. Disney's really making a lot of Star Wars films, and what was the last one? Force Awakens. Well, actually, it was Rogue One, right? But Force Awakens, I thought was, they're just remaking Star Wars again, right? There wasn't much difference to the original Star Wars in a lot of ways. I felt like it was kind of a remake, but except, instead of Luke, it was Rey. Swap out Rey and Luke, and it's basically the same story. So, for me, I liked Rogue One a lot better because it was different and bold, and the ending, of course, is pretty dramatic. And I liked the characters, that they were realistic. And they were new. They weren't like your cookie cutter, Hollywood actors and actresses. It was like it's not really like that. Like if you watch a movie and it's like who would be like Johnny Depp, for example, right? Johnny Depp is in a lot of movies, so when you throw these actors in there that you've seen in so many other films, there's your suspension of belief or disbelief is different than when it's somebody you haven't seen acting. If that makes any sense at all. So I like to see new actors and actresses in films, because it's like you're not thinking of the time when like Tom Hanks was in Saving Private Ryan. You're not thinking of him sitting on a park bench saying that life is a box of chocolates. You know what I mean? Like you envision them as one character, and it sticks. It sticks in your mind. It's like that person. Oh, that's that's this guy. And then you watch another movie and there's somebody else, and you're like, wait, their voice is the same, their mannerisms. Alright, so let me see here. So I really gotta think about the shapes on this character. It's got some little eyebrows going on, which are sculpted. So this is kind of a cool character, I think. This character is not going to have a lot of replacement faces compared to the mother, who needs a lot of expressions to get her point across. This character will be either neutral, angry, or concerned. Those are the three expressions he needs. Because in some shots, he's going to see the little babies who are crying at the end, and he needs to be concerned about their prior action in the film, and they realize they were wrong about something. So concern, and then neutral, and also angry, because he's going to be angry at the mother character because the king is saying that she is a bad person. So if you guys can excuse me for a minute, I gotta check on my son about something. I'm back. I can hear my son watching something he shouldn't be watching there. Alright. Now, I'm going to try to, let's see if you guys can see what it looks like so far. So this is still rough. I think what I'll do is I'll smooth all this out with some mineral oil and kind of see what it looks like. And I'm probably going to have to sculpt in some realistic mouth details after this, because he doesn't look so great at the moment. So mineral oil works really well for smoothing out clay. I know Aardman says that they've used water to smooth some of their clay before. They use that Nuplast, and I've never had any success using water to smooth out my clay characters. But the oil does a great job, so you can kind of see how that just smooths up really well. So with regards to his face now, he's got some cheeks that are kind of rounded. So I want to make sure the cheeks are nice. And kind of realistic in some ways. So I want to have like a little bit of a crease. Janet says that I'm afraid that Star Wars will soon be bored like Marvel. Yeah, if they overdo it, it's going to kind of lose its magic, I think. They're making them almost as many as like a Mickey Mouse cartoon would have been made, like just one after another. I guess they figure that's what will make money, because people will pay for it. I just hope the stories don't suffer, you know? like there's a Han Solo movie they want to make, which is going to be. See here, so. So Han Solo movie, which is going to be, you know, maybe break a lot of people's hearts, because if the writing isn't good, people kind of envision how Han Solo is as a character, you know, and then they kind of make him turn into a princess or something. You know, gonna be a lot of very angry Star Wars fans. You know, like the reason people like Boba Fett is because he's so mysterious, right? It's a mysterious character, and your imagination kind of makes them, you project onto them what you think they are. And if it's too well defined, it's going to be like, well, I thought he was this way, you know, or I thought he was that way. So I think that does, you know, have potential to mess up, you know, the Star Wars universe as people want to see it, because, you know, the fans are the other part of Star Wars. It's like they have you've got the characters and the writers that, you know, design what they do and whatnot, and but the audience is kind of what defines those characters, you know, in their minds. So my feelings about, you know, Luke Skywalker or Yoda or Darth Vader, I think when the prequels came out, a lot of people were disappointed, you know, with the way things went and why Darth Vader turned into what he did and whatnot, right? Because he was upset about the loss of his love, and a lot of people had these other ideas. I know that Mark Hamill said that it's like capturing lightning in a bottle. You know, it's a very rare thing, and to sort of add all these ideas on top of one another kind of muddies things a bit. Like, you can never really capture that original excitement that people had. You can't really repeat it. It's there's no formula for it exactly. It's like most YouTube videos that are viral. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I can create a viral video," you know, but you just never know what like people latch onto. It could be the silliest thing. It's not predictable. So Alexis is saying, I don't know much about stop motion animation, but I do know it takes a lot of time, given the fact how much time can take to shoot a show like Celebrity Deathmatch. Yeah, Celebrity Deathmatch. I don't know how long it took per episode to make one of those, but there was a team of a lot, and there was probably about 50 people working on that at any one time. So it had to be done in a way that, you know, certain things were done, like the sets were reused, and puppets and molds and body parts and all that kind of stuff. You know, they did it in a way to save time, absolutely. But it would have taken quite a long time per episode, probably like, you know, a few months. But they would make them in parallel, so you'd have, you know, more people working always on sets, and someone making stories, somebody making puppets, you know, animators and so forth. And, you know, it was like to work on a TV show like that, it would be probably 16-hour days of work. you know, 6 days a week kind of a thing. That's how most of it really is. In most studios, you'll really work your butt off nonstop, uh, because it does take so long, and there's deadlines and everything. So it's really, really hard to make a stop motion TV series. Gotta have a lot of energy and not much of a social life. It's pretty hard. And you gotta really love it. Gotta really absolutely love it. Okay, so to try and detail this a bit. Kind of give this a little bit of crispiness to it because I've been smoothing it out so much that I want it to have a little bit of a chiseled look to it. I don't know if that's... I also want to make his lips look nicer. So Janet says they planned also Obi-Wan movie and a second trilogy without Rey and Finn. Yeah. Okay. So I hope that when I cast these lips and everything it'll work. Because he's got thin lips. So when you sculpt, you really need to use your eyes. Like sometimes when you're getting into a sculpture, you need to just kind of focus on the shapes and the forms in a rough sense. But then when you get down to it, like this character, he's got like a little cleft chin. So I'm gonna add a little bit of clay on his chin to define that better. So once you got your rough shapes in there, you want to make sure you detail it and get your more simple shapes in there. So here I'll add 2 little chunks of clay where I want his chin to be. And from there, just kind of shape it. So this particular character, his face is kind of just defined by his little cleft chin and chubby face. When I was making these, I wanted to make sure that none of the characters look too much like one another. A lot of artists sometimes, when they don't have any kind of reference material and they just start designing stuff, you'll notice that the designs kind of look similar to each other. And so when I designed the king character, his face is like this, the big mouth, so this one I kind of went for a more small face towards the bottom part with the chubby cheeks. And he's also got see here. I'm gonna smooth that with my brush. So I have a I cleaned up this little cup here because it had other colors of clay in it. And I just put a paper towel in there, put some mineral oil on top of it, and then when I use my brush, I just the oil from the paper towel gets transferred to the brush and then onto the clay, and then I can sort of get in there and smooth out the details where my fingers don't fit. So this goes inside the little crevices, kind of work it around. And you can literally sculpt the clay with a brush like this. If your brush has got a little bit of a firmness to it, you don't want to use a brush that's with bristles that are too long and it's too soft. You want to make it so that you can sort of smooth out stuff and also push the clay around if you press hard with your brush at the same time. Okay, that's probably a bit better. So now he's got his little cleft chin. Now there's no ears on these characters. Technically they're emojis. Their heads are like emojis. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for. Now for the eyes, I want to have little creases on the sides where his skin would theoretically kind of bend if he squinted his eyes, you know. So this tool has got a little round edge to it and it's smooth. This was an old dental pick that I broke the tip off of so I could get a round edge on here. It won't be sharp. And I used varying grades of sandpaper to smooth it, and that's how I get in there and just it leaves a really pleasing kind of a line as opposed to something that's really sharp. You can also use it to define this little cleft chin as well. Okay. Now for the top part of his forehead, I am going to add some little lines as well, where his skin would kind of bend upwards, you know? Leaves those little lines there. I don't know if that really shows. It's kind of hard to get this camera to... It's got an autofocus on there, but it doesn't always work. There we go, you can kind of see it. Okay, so that's the front. Let's see what time it is. Wow, it took almost an hour to sculpt that. So yeah, I mean, making a profit is hard with stop motion. It is. And so Alexis is asking, is stop motion a full-time job or is this kind of a hobby? Well, it used to be a job for me. I've worked in a few places, but I'm just in my house and working on it as a hobby. So this project here is both a hobby, but I'm also using it to teach people how to do it. And you know, it's obviously it's a slow process, but you know, people can kind of pick up on it, what I do, and see how things are created. Now with this face that I'm working on now, the eyes are black, so I can get in there and I could paint those black right now. But since we're going to make a mold of this, I'm not really worried about that. I guess, let me see. So is there anything else I need to do to this face? Got the side lines, got the forehead, got the chin. So I might add like some little temple lines, like where his temples are. Most people have like a little bit of a crease on the side of your head, to the side of your eyes there. So maybe just a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. That was pretty good, actually. On this side as well. That should be good. Okay. So there's roughly how it looks. You can see the drawing and the sculpture side by side. And now with like the eyebrows and everything, I will have like a black piece of clay, a little ball of clay that I make into the shape of the eyebrows. I'll be painting in the eyes and all that. And so maybe next week what we'll do is we will work on at least one side view like this. And from here, we'll make the mold. So it might take up 2 hours to do that. But once we get the mold done and we cast a bunch of these, making the expressions that we need won't take long, if you guys recall. I think we got about 3 per show done. Last time we were making expressions for the mother. 2 or 3. So, anyways, I guess... Nope, I haven't played Assassin's Creed, Janet. And Whiskey says that animation for me is just a lifelong hobby. All types. Yep, it's kind of like that. You know, once you get set up with stop motion, you know, there's always that desire to create stuff. And if it wasn't for this live show, I'm kind of forcing myself to make this with you guys because I have so much work that I have to do in terms of sculpting and molding and stuff that, you know, this is like my first love, you know, my first art form that I've truly wanted to just do. And so it's really great to just do it and share it with you guys, and hopefully you learn a little bit from it. And so next week we'll work on the side view and probably finish it. I could start it now since we got a little bit of time left. But I think, let's see here. Let me see if this is good. Yeah, that'll work. It's about the right size. Once I start animating, it's going to be just amazing to make that kind of progress on this film, because it seems like I've been working on replacements for so long. It's taken forever. I wish I had, you know, 16 hours per day to work on this stuff, because I could make a film in probably a month if I just were to work on it nonstop. I'm gonna kind of mush this up. Sometimes when you get clay and it just sits there for a while, it gets a little bit cold and stiff. And so if you warm it up in your fingers just a little bit, it makes a big difference. Let's see. So Alexa says, I'm a motion graphics artist, but I've never been into character animation. It's fun. And when you first do it, when you first see your character kind of come to life, there's something about it where, you know, it's like you're seeing something that you've created literally come alive. And it's a weird, surreal feeling. It's different to watch it when somebody else does it. Like if you watch Nightmare Before Christmas, or, you know, Box Trolls, or any of the newer feature films in stop motion, or any of that. It's different when you do it yourself for some reason. You know, there's kind of like this relationship that you have with your characters, and you sort of feel a sense of it being part of you in a way. Hey, Jason. Glad to be a motivation. I try. Sometimes it is hard to stay motivated. You know, artists go through ups and downs with motivation a lot. I'm no different than anybody else. Sometimes I just want to go on vacation and say, all right, I'm done now. I'm going to just relax. But if you keep at it, it really pays off. I wonder what's going on with Alba Garcia. You know, Alba Garcia was working on so many projects, and she did like a Kickstarter thing, and she's still working on that, I presume. I should probably have her back on the show one of these days just to see how things are. Her family's in Puerto Rico, so I know that she was really freaking out when they had that hurricane go through there. But that's a person that is motivated. Alba is so motivated. Like, I don't know where she gets it from. More motivated than anybody I've ever talked to in terms of making, wanting to make films. Like her stories, I think, motivate her more than anything. I think that's her main motivation, just because she wants to tell and express what's in her heart. Really. I mean, she has a lot of emotions and things, that like a lot of feelings towards different subjects that for her has a lot of importance. Like the topic of death. One of her students, I believe it was a twin who passed away, and her motivation was to kind of tell that story and to tell a story in a way that was to give hope to people, so they wouldn't be sad. Essentially, I guess that was really the point of her film. What was that one called? Time, Space, Reflections, if you guys recall. If you guys want to Google that, Time, Space, Reflections, Alba Garcia is one of the films that, it took her a long time to make. And she used like a 3D printing process similar to what Henry Selick did. And I know they were really proud of that. Her and her, I don't know if it's husband or boyfriend, Juan. Probably husband. They're always together, but he designed it in, I think, Blender, the replacement faces, and they did it to save time, but it ended up costing them a lot of money. So I know the latest project they're doing is like a hybrid 3D printed head with CG, like actually animating the mouths with computers. And so it's just like a hybrid film in order to save time and money, because like with this project, I'm not doing this with full puppets. I'm doing it flat in order to save space, and I'm doing it in a limited way to save time, so that the project will be completed, because it's just me working on it. And so Alba has done things like most of us in stop motion. When you start out, you want to make something super complicated and intricate and detailed and all of that, but you quickly learn that when you do something overly complicated, it ends up being something that consumes your entire amount of your life, and all of your, if you have a garage, all of your space or a spare room, so it can be, you can feel like you're not accomplishing anything if you try to make something too big. And that's what a lot of us, like myself, I've, with my Zombie Pirate Tales, I had all these ideas of really making something awesome, and I just realized after a while that what was in my head and what I'm capable of are two different things. So you kind of have to rethink things and do things in a more smart way. there's nothing wrong with making something really short or really fast. Um, Sometimes you learn more doing something fast than doing something that takes a long time. Um, and most of these kind of techniques, like doing clay animation, maybe in the future it won't really be done this way. It might be done. There might be some new material, out there that somebody comes up with that can really revolutionize clay animation in some way. And it won't be really clay. It might be like a plastic of some sort, or maybe something that, like you make a puppet and somehow plug it into a computer and it can walk around or something, like a little miniature robot, that looks like clay, or I don't know. I mean, who knows what the future is going to bring? We can't really predict. But storytelling will be visually different in 20 years, guaranteed, than anything that is existing right now. But what that will entail, I don't really know. Like virtual reality is one thing that has blown me away in the way that if you watched like, what was that called again? I can't remember. But there's some short films, and actually Pixar, I believe, just came out with one yesterday for virtual reality. A short interactive film of some sort. And like when I say interactive, I mean like an immersive kind of thing where you're in there with characters and stuff. And that is what I think is, it's amazing. I mean, really it is. I mean, I love clay animation, but to think that you could be immersed completely into a clay animation world or a stop motion world would be, I mean, that would be the ultimate, wouldn't it? So Jason says, I prefer to work alone, but Alba seems to love working with a team like my wife. Perhaps it's a Latin thing. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Alba does like that, and she has a lot of people that have worked with her, and she's a very social. She's like what, a social butterfly, right? Loves everybody, and embraces everybody, and yeah. I mean, I've had, when I lived in New York, we had a bunch of Puerto Rican friends, and they're really passionate people. Absolutely. Warm-hearted, nice, passionate people. I mean, Donald Trump might not agree with me on that, but that's my experience. Sticking to it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's crazy how our own president didn't know that, he's technically the president of Puerto Rico. He said something about speaking to the president of Puerto Rico. It's like, wait a second, you didn't speak to the president. Are you talking to yourself? I mean, it's funny and sad, It's funny and sad. That's why I get immersed in art. I must ignore those things. So, Janet says that sometimes making movies can be auto therapy, maybe. I don't know what you mean. So, like you make a character who have a fight problems like you have. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So, in other words, kind of like working out problems and stuff. Yeah, it's true. And Alexa says, I just saw Alba's Time and Space short. I love the look of her puppets. Yep. And a Whiskey says, I think it's all going augmented VR in 10 plus years, but stop motion projects will still be out there in some corner. Yeah, you know, I hope that stop motion in some way can be part of virtual reality. Like, I don't know how to do that stuff yet. I know, like, Phil Tippett has scanned his stop motion puppets and sort of made them into that kind of thing, but like I said, I don't know how it's all done yet. I know Webster Colcord sent me a link to a program that they've used in, you know, in one of his studios, I guess, to sort of scan things and digitize them. Like you take an object and you take multiple pictures of it, and then the software sees it in space and then builds it through like this by seeing and comparing the background to the outline of whatever it is. You know, there's all this weird technology that they're using like that. I think they call it photogrammetry. I think it's called photogrammetry. It's pretty neat, you know, but anyways, I know I need to put my son, he needs to go to sleep. He's supposed to be in bed at 9, so I probably should wrap this up pretty soon, but at least I got started here. So we got the side view going on here, which we can work on next time. But alright, so you guys can see the process and you can see how things are going. Hopefully next week. Yeah, this is Avalon Clay. I wrote it on the bag. Okay. So hopefully next week we can finish up this face. I'm going to check my storyboards and I'm going to see. Actually, they're just rough sketches, but I'm going to see if I really need to make an opposing view. But I think a front and one side angle is enough for this puppet, this character. Okay, well anyways, thank you guys for stopping by. And I will see you next time. And nice to meet you, Alexis.